Erickson Galt.
Here.
Joliet.
Here.
Lubes is on her way. Nelson.
Here.
Taylor.
Here.
Hoffman is also on his way. Spiz.
Present.
Gershenson.
Here.
And Johnson.
Smiling in.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes dated March 5th, 2024, moved by Commissioner Spiz, seconded by Commissioner Taylor. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Minutes have been approved. Thank you very much. I would now entertain a motion to approve today's agenda, moved by Commissioner Taylor, seconded by Commissioner Erickson Galt. Everyone in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The agenda's been approved. Moving forward, anyone from the public wishing to address us on any items on the agenda today? Seeing none, we'll move on to our regular agenda. I would entertain a motion to recommend and forward to finance item A, which is a grant acceptance 2024 survey and remonumentation grant. Moved by Commissioner Erickson Galt, seconded by Commissioner Spiz. Fred, why don't you join us at the top of the table there? And good morning to you.
Good morning, Commissioners. How are you today?
Fantastic.
So this is the 2024 Survey and Remonumentation Grant. Longtime Lago watchers, well, this is no stranger to you all, but as a refresher, it's a program that the state has run since 1993, and that when documents are recorded at the Register of Deeds across the state, a fee is captured, that's put into a pool, and then the state regrants that back to counties for the purposes of surveying and remonumentation. Oakland County has run a robust program since 1993 and has monumented or checked all the corners, surveyed all the areas of Oakland County, and now we are in what the state calls a maintenance phase. So we're going back through and checking. This year we're doing Highland Township and Milford Township, and our surveyors are scheduled to do 171 corners to visit to make sure that those monuments haven't been destroyed or misplaced or otherwise in working order. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have and appreciate your support.
Well, any questions? Commissioner Taylor.
I have a question. Is there a report or something that I could see being one of the newer commissioners of what you did last year? You know, like I know grants require you to do a report annually or something like that. Is it somewhere that I could take a look? I know we've been doing this since 1993, so I don't need to go that far back, but just from last year to this year.
Sure, Commissioner, I'll email you that, and then you can follow up with me if you have any questions. But because you haven't heard my spiel before, I'll tell you this. Remonumentation is one of those kind of nerdy in the weeds kind of things, but when you think about the guarantees of America, it's the right to our private property, right? And how do we guarantee our private property is ours, in fact, and where do we define where the Taylor holdings end and the Gershenson holdings begin, you know? When Mr. Ward has a dispute with his neighbor over their fence line, you know, it's remonumentation that allows us to really critically evaluate what those boundaries are. And so it's, like I said, it gets literally gets into the weeds, but it literally is the cornerstone by which our private property rights as Americans is guaranteed.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that.
This is probably not the right audience for this, but I saw a TIFF on TikTok. Well, I saw it on Instagram because I'm not on TikTok, so it's a secondhand TIFF. But two neighbors who were feuding, and this woman, she thought that her neighbor was transgressing so awfully that she poisoned the grass.
Oh my God.
She brought a surveyor out and found out that it was actually her lawn that she did that too. So
Karma.
So this is important.
It's important stuff, that's right.
Any other questions, comments? Cool. Madam Clerk, would you please prompt the vote?
Sounds like Yellowstone.
Yeah, actually a little light for Yellowstone.
Now you, Commissioner. You got it.
I guess that's good too.
Is absent.
Shut her in.
I vote yes,
Okay, Nelson.
in case you're
Yes.
curious.
And Johnson.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, 8-0.
That item passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Always appreciate it. I would entertain a motion to recommend to the board item B, 2024 Natural Resources Community Habitat Improvement Projects. Moved by Commissioner Juliet, seconded by Commissioner Hoffman. All right, Melissa, you wanna come up?
So, hello,
Oh, you're not
Melissa.
Melissa, I'm sorry. I just saw the back of your head and I said.
We look similar, it's okay.
Pleased to introduce Sarah Cook Nealon for those who have not met Sarah before. Sarah's our Chief of Environmental Sustainability and Natural Resources Stewardship Management.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, well,
That works,
I'm the
yeah.
boss, I can change it.
Exactly.
And she does a wonderful job with her team of managing this project. We wanted to share plans for this year.
Yeah, so this is our 2024 request for habitat restoration projects across Oakland County. So it's a grant program that we offer to communities and conservation nonprofits to do resilience and restoration projects. So it's things like tree planting, invasive species control, native plant conversions. And this also funds our native plant event where we give away native plants to county residents and funds our right-of-way Phragmites and knotweed treatments. And that's a partnership program with the Road Commission for Oakland County. So they put in some money and we provide some funds to do right-of-way treatments across the county. So this is approving the list of requests that we got for this year and to proceed with the treatments or the projects.
Commissioner
Does
Spitz?
anybody else see the list?
There
No,
we-
I was
Oh,
just
it's not
trying to
pulling up.
reload and it's not loading.
I already looked at it, but I don't.
there we go.
Sure, yeah,
See it.
yeah.
Mine came up fine.
Little lag, yeah.
Mine just came up, I don't know what I did, but
Okay, just wanna make sure.
I do recommend going through
There
the
we go.
list. It's helpful.
Yeah, we can,
How'd you get
if you
it?
have any questions about either the approved or the unapproved ones, we can certainly go through those.
Any questions?
Let's try it.
here we go.
Just have to zoom in really big on your screen and show it to everyone.
Commissioner Gershenson.
Okay, so your total funding that you've committed to is 183,000 plus?
We have about 200,000, but we had some prior commitments from last year, so there were projects
Okay.
that we couldn't complete in 2023 because of either weather conditions or property access agreements. So we have 200 total, but we're recommending 183 so we can finish those projects that were pulled over from the prior year.
And then these are the ones that didn't make it?
The ones that are in the gray are the ones that didn't make it, and those projects mostly were not funded this year because either they were duplicates of other projects, or there were like logistical concerns with them. Everything that was viable to the most degree possible, we do fund. So like for some of these, there's a number of Pollyant Trail projects. So we talked with the Pollyant Trail manager and asked them to consolidate that request into their most prioritized project rather than like 4 or 5 different projects. So we'll continue funding different Pollyant Trail projects, but we just chose the one that they selected.
Okay,
So there are
good.
some
So-
unfunded ones, but we worked with them to
Okay,
make
so
sure
they're
that
not
they're prioritized.
unfunded, but could use funds. They're unfunded for a reason.
Yeah, there's only a couple I think that were unfunded that could use funds, but mostly they were either unfunded because the same organization applied for multiple different projects. So like Blue Heron or Six Rivers applied for a couple different projects, so we funded a select number of their projects, but not all of their projects. Cranbrook, we did fund some of those and we'll do some of their projects in-house. So everyone who applied for funding pretty much got funding. I would say the only exception here is the Abraham Ranch project, and that was one that was submitted by a private landowner, and that was one we just didn't think was appropriate for the funding source, but we're working with them to identify external funding sources that they could use.
Okay, well, that's helpful to be working with residents to help them, right?
Absolutely, yes.
So your budget is 200,000, okay, and where does that come from?
That comes from operating funds, so it comes from the millage increase of 2020, but it comes through our operating budget. So it's already approved funding.
Okay, and you're not interested in coming to us and asking for that to increase, you're good at 2.
We handle that within our funding,
Sounds good.
unless you would like to.
Yeah, feel
I
free.
wasn't offering.
Expand our plant giveaway.
Asking, okay, thank you.
I have have a question. How do communities know to apply for this? Do you advertise or solicit for applicants?
We do, so we post it on our social media, on our website, and then we also operate the Oakland County Cooperative Invasive Species Management Area, which a number of the CVTs are members of, so we have, I think, 44 members right now. So we also offer it through that. The project period is open for about 3 months, so our staff go out and do site visits with any interested applicants to help them develop their projects, because a lot of times communities don't know what a natural resources project looks like. So if they have an area that they think could use some work or that they'd like to improve, we send our staff out to help them develop what they want to ask for and come up with cost estimates for them, because we know that's a challenge for communities.
Right. Interesting. I probably know a lot more. Any other questions, comments?
Mine's more of a general question, because I see it on here a couple different ways. It's more probably because I'm ignorant to how you manage certain invasive species, because some I see you're doing biodiversity and habitat restoration, and some you're mowing.
Yeah, so the winter mowing projects are kind of at the end, and those are ones that we have a piece of equipment and our staff actually go out and do the mowing for the community. So it's a large, it's called a pecan mower, so it kind of can suck in like huge trees and mow them, or invasive shrubs. So those are projects that our staff are doing in-house that we're not requesting funding for, but that's to show you that we did work for those communities as well, so you can see where we're distributing time and funding across the county.
Okay, because I was just under the impression, maybe this might be completely wrong, that from an invasive species standpoint, you don't really want to mow it.
In most cases, that's true, you're right, but there are some cases with invasive shrubs where if you do repeated mowing, it's very effective because you can target a large area. There are lots of areas where you'd rather do like a herbicide cut stump treatment, but if you have really large areas like open fields, or we've done a large project over at Waterford Oaks, if you're ever over there and can see it around the wetland, where the mowing is very effective as long as you continue follow-up mowing. And that's effective on invasive shrubs, so that wouldn't be things like Phragmites or swallowwort, it'd be like autumn olive or common buckthorn.
Okay, thank you.
Just another pro tip, if you are curious and you want to see a little bit more from their website on the item summary, it is linked below the policy analysis section. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Madam Clerk, would you please prompt the vote on that?
Gershenson,
Yes.
you have none yeas, 0 nays.
Awesome, thank you very much, everyone. That passes, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Our next item, I would entertain a motion to recommend and forward to finance, item C, City of Rochester Hills Innovation Hills Park Restroom Project Grant. Moved by
That's
Commissioner
ours.
Spiz, yes, and I will second that one too. Welcome back, Chris.
Morning, again. Thank you for taking up this item. This is a grant to support the Innovation Hills Restroom Project. I don't know if all of you have heard of Innovation Hills before, but I can guarantee your constituents have. It's become one of the most popular destinations recreationally in the county since it was first opened in 3 years ago.
The big opening was 3 years ago.
Okay,
It's been open with a trail for
But
about
it's
7.
Ken Elbert, he's the Director of Parks and Recreation for the City of Rochester Hills. It is one of the largest, if not the largest playground in the state of Michigan. It is certainly one of the most popular, especially for parents of children with special needs. It's got not only, a wide variety, but type of playground equipment that's designed to support that. Wheelchair accessible, quiet spaces, et cetera.
Elements of autism specifically, we designed it for.
Since it was open, it's become quite popular, perhaps more so than initially anticipated, as the infrastructure there has been a bit overwhelmed. I know they've had to build a new parking lot across the street as a temporary measure. You estimate, 400,000 to 500,000 people a year?
About 450,000 a year is
Yeah.
what we're getting. It's our second busiest park.
Yeah, it's And I've learned in this job that perhaps the most important thing in a park is a bathroom. And certainly one of the things we hear the most comments about. Yeah, it is. So I just turn it over to Ken, if you can just share a little bit about the project and costs, et cetera.
Sure. Yeah, briefly appreciate you considering what's before you on this. And Innovation Hills is part of the Rochester Hills system. We do about 1.5 million visits every year. Several of our parks draw a regional audience. Innovation Hills is right next to M59. And because of the attention that it's gotten, we're drawing from all over, not only this county, but even in other areas as well. The park was originally designed for about 150 to 200,000 visits. It's getting 450,000. So we are struggling and appreciate with the restroom area specifically. We try to run 6 to 8 porta potties in there, which just doesn't fit the particular vibe of that park, nor really what the residents want. We have a small restroom in there already that is actually solar powered and rain collection powered. It's not connected to any sort of city infrastructure, but it's just not large enough. That would become our family restroom area, if you will. And so we're looking for partners, especially as we're pulling in more and more people from around the region on this. The playground that Chris mentioned is about 3.5 acres, and it is definitely the most popular attraction there. Again, designed to be ADA and universal design in some areas, but really with elements of for those that have autistic challenges. We reached out to that community. So the playground is fully enclosed. The colors on this playground are more natural oriented, a little bit less vibrant to tone down the themes. We have cocoon areas, as Chris has mentioned, for those that are overstimulated. We have probably the second we-go-round in the state, which is sort of a merry-go-round, but it is flush with the landscape, so someone in a wheelchair can slide right in there, and it's also got benches in there, so able-bodied kids can play on the benches, and somebody in a wheelchair can be there at the same time. But it is challenging to, we've been working on the restrooms for a couple of years, and we're literally in the middle of it right now, and the bids are coming in more expensive, and there's not great water sources or sewer there, so we have to run some fairly significant lines to this area, which is some of the price issues. It is a little bit more expensive than our typical restroom and storage area.
So you estimate the $1 million roughly for the bathroom, $1 million for the utility and underground infrastructure, perhaps more.
Right, yeah, the underground may even be a little bit more than that, just talking to our water engineer last week. But yes, we appreciate any support for sort of the regional traffic we're bringing in that you can.
And it's that regional aspect that really, Parks felt it was very important to step up to this and be supportive of the city and the service they're providing, not only to their residents, but to the residents all over the region, all over Oakland County. So we were pleased to provide a $250,000 match to the $250,000. It's included in this as well, coming from the board. There is a time sensitivity to move this now. As Ken mentioned, they're literally ready to pull the trigger on getting construction done this summer and hopefully wrap up the project this fall, begin to address that urgent need. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Commissioners, questions, comments? Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, first and foremost, it's National Autism Awareness Day, so what a perfect day to be here presenting, so thank you. I happily support this. I've worked with many families over the past couple years from the Tri-County area that flock to this park because of the fully inclusivity of it, which allows all children and adults to enjoy the playground structure. So I think Mr. Ward said it the best. Bathrooms are important when we think about our park. So I happily support this. Thank you.
Commissioner Taylor.
Yep. Thank you for presenting today. I had questions when I saw a $2 million restroom. I was like, what are you making? I don't spend that kind of money on a bathroom. So knowing now, and forgive my ignorance, I have never been to the park, but hearing about it and knowing now how important it is and all of the people that it services, I understand why it's important, and then here in the underground, I mean, the infrastructure piece is even more important because you have to have a way to get the water. And I have grandkids, so I understand the need for bathrooms. And it's not just the children, parents need them. So I am in support of this, but thank you for, that's why presentations are important, because I would have said $2 million, how many stalls? And I would have went down that road, and you know, if it's for women or for children, or for, but I don't need to do any of that, so thank you very much. Thank you.
Relatedly, I'm sure I would love to have you to the park, I'm sure.
Anyone that wants to come, excuse me for interrupting, give me a call, personal tour. We have a golf cart to drive you around on for up to 6 people, so would love to. Anyone that's interested.
We should do that.
Let me know, because I have to reserve you parking or figure out something like that.
I would like to.
And the playground is just an element that's also a really cool park all the way around. You've got glow in the dark paving surfaces throughout park as well, right?
Right, there's a couple of unique elements, that's true. Glow in the dark paving, rope bridge, about 2 miles of trails and boardwalks through wetlands.
Access to the Clinton River.
Access to
Canoe
Clinton
launch if you're
River.
interested.
So that's even more important to have bathrooms, because you're servicing so many areas.
Oh, yeah. Commissioner Joliet.
Yes, I've been there. It's a wonderful park, and it does service all of Oakland County. So I do support that. Quick question, a little plug for Oakland County. Do we get any signage?
Yes, is the short
Okay.
answer. Chris and I are
Okay.
going back and forth as to the deals of that. And we'll, you know, typically anyone that supports the park at the level that you're considering, we have boulders that actually, plus your traditional signage. So, but we're working, yes, is the short answer.
Okay.
It's in
Working through it.
It's in the agreement. Yeah.
I know the mayor was promising you could have a flush sponsored by.
Oh.
This is Karen
Oh, okay,
Joliet
we get
presents this
pictures, all right,
flush.
okay.
Commissioner.
Thank you. I know some parks in Rochester Hills have an admission fee. I'm assuming this one does not.
You are correct. Our other large park, which is the sports park, doesn't have an admissions fee. And we don't consider them admissions fees or parking fees, just for clarification that they can certainly walk in or bike in for free at all of our facilities. As of now, there's no plan for Innovation Hills to have parking, but it's some, fees, but it's something we're looking at.
Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just, of course, I'm fully supportive of this. I think it's a great idea, great park. Just reading through the resolution, maybe it's just me, it's just a little confusing because I know it's $500,000, but the way it says be it further resolved, and so we're only moving $250,000 today from the general fund to the Parks and Recs to your budget, to the Parks budget.
Right.
So how is it gonna be fully given to Rochester Hills? Is it gonna go through the Parks Commission?
Yes.
And so you guys will have a
administering.
meeting and approve the $500,000 based on the $250 we're giving from the general fund. So
Yeah,
we're approving $250 from the general fund today to you.
Yeah, and I believe there's a budget amendment that'll be done in finance tomorrow to clarify that. And we do have funding for this purpose in our budget already.
Right.
So it's just a match and happy to support it.
Okay, because we just approved the previous one where the parks came to us to say, okay, go ahead and spend this money. And I see it for the $250 to move it from general fund, but I don't see anything that says, okay, spend the $500,000 on
Right.
this project.
I think with that one, you didn't appropriate the money, you approved the project, and that's been our pattern.
Okay.
So that's what we're doing here, is getting your approval.
Okay, just wanna make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah, Parks Commission's gonna act on it tomorrow.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Anything else? Well, I'm excited. I've been there multiple times. It's not too far away from me and it's not too far away from any of us right now. It is right on 59 right there. So if you haven't been, come give me a text and we'll meet up and enjoy it. But without anything else, clerk, would you please come to the vote? Last one did.
Spiz,
Yes.
Joliet,
Yes.
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
and Johnson.
Yes.
We have 9 yeas, 0 nays.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your support.
Moving on then to item D, I would entertain a motion to recommend to the board.
For a tour, if you're
I would entertain a motion to recommend to the board item D, which is a resolution in support of Senate Bills 669 and 670, moved by Commissioner Nelson, seconded by Commissioner Hoffman. Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This resolution supports bipartisan legislation that enhances public access, transparency, and accountability by expanding the application of FOIA to the state legislature and the governor's office, which brings into compliance with the state's FOIA Freedom of Information Act. Currently, I believe Michigan is one of 2 states that are left that fully exempt the executive and the legislative branch from FOIA. As we all know, transparency is the foundation of a well-working democracy, and it's necessary in not only restoring the trust, but the confidence in our government and the people elected to do it. One of the other big aspects of these bills includes explaining. It places the burden of explaining why a FOIA request is denied on the FOIA coordinator of the responding agency, as opposed to placing the burden on the individual who is submitting the FOIA request. So I think this is a great step moving forward. I applaud Senator Jeremy Moss moving this forward, and hopefully I can get my colleagues here on the Board of Commissioners to support this.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Commissioner Nelson? No? Any questions at all? Commissioner Toya?
So Michigan is the one of 2 states that are left.
I think it's Michigan and Connecticut, I think.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating.
Commissioner?
I just want to say, I think this should be an absolutely easy decision because everybody should have to comply with with FOIA. And there are some exclusions, which is well stated in the resolution, but I think the state needs to catch up.
Agreed.
Anything else? All right, well, Madam Clerk, would you please prompt the vote?
Right.
Y'all keep saying it's easy. Jeremy has tried for years to do this, so.
Isn't it wild that it's so
Yeah.
true? I mean, it's
Voice crying in the room.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Don't want it. The other one does, but the other one's Howard doesn't.
Did.
well, and that's why bipartisan is important now as we move forward,
Yeah.
that's a big component. And I know it's gone back and forth with a couple different revisions and lots of discussions have been had. And I think, we all think about how easy and simple it is to think about, well, of course we should have open and transparent government. But as we know that we can do better.
You got 9 days, Jeremy?
Thank you very much. That item passes. Next, folks, we have the first 2. Are they here? Or are they outside?
It's 9:40 is when we.
9:40 is first.
Oh,
There's a-
too efficient.
Yeah, I was gonna say we've got,
If no one's here, I'm happy to go at ease for.
yeah. You wanna take a
minutes.
couple minutes? Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Okay.
Let's go at ease. At the call of the chair.
How many do we have today?
Ready?
Only 2 today.
Now's your chance.
Yes. Do I have to?
Oh, yeah. We have to text them.
I don't know what the
so-
signal is for
Worse.
Bob.
All right, calling this meeting back to order. It's 9:35. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Erickson Galt.
Here.
Joliet.
Here.
Lou.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
Taylor.
Here.
Hoffman.
Present.
Spiz.
Present.
Gershenson. Here. Johnson.
Still smiling.
All right, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We are back in session and we have, so only 2 applicants to interview today. If you were out of the room or you missed it, we have a vacancy that opened up yesterday. So we need a township elected official for that spot. If you have township elected official friends, yesterday this happened. He's no.
Bob DePalma?
Yeah.
He had another meeting, so he couldn't make the interview, and then he happened to say that he was no longer running, so.
Really? He did such a great job on
Yeah.
that committee.
I know. So tell your township friends that if any of them are interested, we do have it's a vacancy now. So anyway, Danielle, correct? Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Danielle Todd. She is applying for the one waste diversion, reuse, or reduction facility operator position. And the resume and application are attached. I guess I will kick it off. We've got about 10 minutes per applicant. Kick it off with just your elevator pitch. Tell us a little bit about you, why you're interested in this position, and then we'll open it up for commissioner questions.
Sure. I'm Danielle Todd. I'm the Executive Director of Make Food Not Waste. We're based in Detroit. I'm a Birmingham resident. And I founded the organization in 2017. We've always been focused on food waste reduction in the home. And over the past few years, we've evolved to work in a couple of different areas. One thing that we do is we operate 2 kitchens in the city of Detroit where we take in surplus food, byproducts from other food manufacturing, and repurpose it into community meals. We make about 100,000 community meals every year, and we are in process of applying for federal funds to build our own kitchen in Eastern Market, where we would divert all of the edible food from Eastern Market to the kitchen to make more meals. So we estimate that 600,000 pounds of edible food from Eastern Market that's currently being landfilled, and then we would be able to take in additional food outside of the market to be able to repurpose that as well. Our meals are made by professional chefs. They're all on staff, they're all paid, and our meals are amazing, high quality. We like to say that it's food that we're proud to serve our friends and family. So it is culturally appropriate, delicious, nutritious, healthy, amazing meals made by our incredible chefs. The other big project that we work on is called the 2030 Project. We have funding from Eagle to work on a pilot right now in Southfield, where we are looking to understand how we could divert all of the food waste from the city of Southfield from landfills. We estimate that's 30 million pounds of food that's landfilled currently in Southfield. And we're looking to understand what it would take both from a infrastructure standpoint as well as outreach to prevent that food waste from happening, rescue as much as possible, and then compost or recycle the rest of it. So that project has kicked off in January, and it will be going through September. And we're really excited to figure out how we could do that in Southfield and then replicate that in the other big cities in Southeast Michigan. I think we're a little busy, but why do I want to be on this? Because with the materials management new planning of Part 115 that requires that food waste management is going to need to be part of that planning. And given my experience in both Detroit and on this 2030 project, and as well as the national work that I do, I feel like I can bring a lot to best practices of understanding how Oakland County can divert all of its food waste from landfills as much as possible.
Awesome, thank you. Questions, Commissioner Gershenson? Commissioner Gershenson?
Oh, wow, I'm blown away. That's amazing what you do. I hadn't heard about that, so I'd really like to get your card.
Sure.
Where in the Eastern Market are you planning on building a kitchen?
We're looking at the Pellerito building, which is on Mac. It's right next to Farm to Freezer, if you know where that building is.
Okay, and your funding is from,
We don't have funding yet, so we're applying for EPA funding from the Community Change Grant opportunity that's out right now.
well, great work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Additional discussion, questions? Commissioner Spitz?
Maybe it's just me because I'm reading through all these different representation levels. And you mentioned food waste, right? And the line item that you're applying for just says waste. So what is included in just waste? Is it just food or is it many other items that we're also looking to divert, which I'm assuming it is, but
Probably
again,
everything.
but there's other ones like composting, which is one above it, material recovery, which is a little different, right? And then solid waste disposal. So are there any other areas from a waste, I'm gonna call it, perspective that you have any experience in or are looking to gain experience in?
Sure. I do serve on Detroit's Waste Diversion Advisory Committee, which looks at all waste. So I had definitely have exposure to other areas like hazardous waste, construction waste, that type of thing. But my experience is in food.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Commissioner Nelson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kind of just to capitalize off of what Commissioner Gershenson said, love hearing about this. Not aware of this in the past, so eager to learn more for sure, especially since I see that Sylvan Table is a partner, so that's amazing. Kind of to reiterate some of the things that Commissioner Spitz just said, so I get the food waste aspect, preparing meals and providing individuals with food and meals. Is there any compost component to this with any scraps of food left over?
You mean in the Southfield work that we're doing or in the kitchen that we're doing?
In general, in your experiences?
Sorry, could you rephrase the question?
So do you do anything left over with any of the food for compost?
We are not composters, but we work with our compost partners. So we work with My Green Michigan, Co-Sustainability, which are the two main ones. We compost everything in our kitchens and we, but we aren't the actual composters. We specialize in the use.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Of course. I think to cap it off, I'm just curious, what do you think are like the top things that you would like to change with how Oakland County does materials management? Or what would you attack first?
Well, one of my favorite lines that I've read recently is that there's no such thing as byproducts, they're all products. And so I think we need to, as a society, consider the fact that everything that we produce is not, there essentially is no waste. We need to figure out how we can repurpose everything that we use and create, and there's just, I would love to see nothing go to landfills. The first thing there's so many things you can do. I'm interested in following at the state level, they're considering a surcharge on landfills and just what the impact of that is gonna be on our landfills, but also on our municipalities in terms of the cost for that. So that's also something that I'm keeping an eye on. We do a lot of our work, is a culture change, but also providing the infrastructure that can match that. So it's that fine balance of making sure that you're welcoming people into the work, but also that you're providing the logistics and the infrastructure in order for that to happen. So it's kind of working on those two things at the same time.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Commissioner Juliet.
Very interesting, your work, so thank you for sharing. I did not know about that. I've been to Eastern Market a couple of times. So are you aware that this is a 5-year commitment? Okay, and do you foresee being able to, should you be elected to this position, be able to sustain the 5 years?
Yep.
Right, thank you.
How often does the committee meet?
4 times a week.
That's what I was hoping.
Hardly ever meets.
Yeah, as it's been explained to me, because this is the initial conception of it, it would probably be a heavier commitment on the front end to set it
Sure.
up, but then it would trickle out to yes, rarely.
It would trickle down to 4 times a week.
No.
Okay.
Anything else? Cool. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Can I say one thing?
Please.
So we are hosting a big event in Southfield on April 13th, which is a week from Saturday. It's gonna be at the Southfield Pavilion. It's designed to inspire people to waste less food at home. It's free, it's open to the public. It's we're gonna have a lunch that's made from food that would otherwise go to waste, made by professional chefs, including Sylvan Table chefs are gonna be participating in that. Senator Stabenow is gonna be there speaking for a little bit about the Farm Bill. We have cooking demos, other activities, and we have a number of organizations that also work in the space that are gonna be there. So please join us if you like. It's from 11 to 2, and please tell everyone you know to come. We want to see thousands of people there.
One more quick question.
Yes.
Yeah, can I have it? I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
I'm from Southfield and I don't know anything about it.
Great.
We've not advertised that I'm aware of, haven't seen it, heard it.
I will
So-
take care of that as soon as I get home today.
Yeah, I was gonna piggyback on that. Can you send out, if there's a flyer or a website or something to the staff, and they'll send it out to all of us commissioners, and then we can share that.
Great.
I like electronic, that way
Yep.
it's easier for me to share and blast out there, that
Yep.
would be great.
Okay.
And or if you have a Facebook or something like that, that we have a commissioner Facebook page that we could tie on to too, to blast it out.
Great.
So any type of that information would be great, and we can help.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Julia.
One quick question, kind of off topic of the board, but how was Southfield selected? How did that get selected to be part of that program?
So the short version is that the state of Michigan has a goal of cutting food waste in half by 2030, which is about 1 billion pounds. As a state, we landfill more than 2 billion pounds of food a year. And so one way that you can do that is you can go around the whole state and you can try to cut it in half everywhere across the whole state. So our argument is that if instead you focus on where the population is focused in the state, which is Southeast Michigan, and you can figure out if you take the top 15 cities in Southeast Michigan and you divert 100% of the food waste, which I get, I know is unreasonable, but that's what we're gonna do. That also equals 1 billion pounds. So you could be more efficient by hyper-focusing on Southeast Michigan. And so Southfield is one of those 15 cities. It's one of the smallest of the 15 cities in Southeast Michigan. So we felt that it was very manageable and to start as this pilot, and they were also willing. So they were able to agree very quickly because we conceived of this idea in the fall and we talked with a few cities, and Southfield was the one that was able to make it happen.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, well, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Just for your wherewithal, you are the very first of our interviews, and we have many to do. So we will probably be making, per the timeline that we discussed last time, late May, early June
Okay.
is when you'll hear back from us. But
And when would the committee start?
everything would start, July?
Okay.
I wanna say July.
Okay.
Because everything would be done on our end in the tail end of June.
Great. I'll grab my card just to anyone who wants it, and thanks very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
I have questions, but I don't wanna hold it right now.
Pardon me?
I have a million questions, but I it's just going, shh.
I know, it's exciting.
It is interesting.
Suzanne, yeah.
Great project.
Thank you so much.
Always.
Thank you.
Does anyone else want one?
Thank you so much.
Yes, please.
I know, exactly. Stolen identity right there.
Yeah. Here, do you want it? I'll take a picture.
Can I email you the?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. We don't have any waste.
Okay. Did you email
Where
me?
you can.
No.
I have to change this.
Yeah.
Oh, Tracy, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
great, thank you.
Thank you.
They like eggs.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What's that?
So let's bring it.
You gotta take some space.
That's how we got here, right? 20 minutes early.
Ready for you.
Alright. Down here?
Yes,
at the end of the
welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
That's Mike.
You're so, wow,
Mike Safo. Welcome, and thank you
Well,
very
thank
much
you.
for coming.
You know, as someone who's been serving on solid waste planning committees, both in Oakland County, Genesee County, since the Engler administration, this is the first time we've had interviews for these things, so.
Oh.
It's nice to see that you're taking it seriously, and as a sign that I am as well, I wore a tie today.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
He's the only one.
Welcome, we've got about 10 minutes here. Just wanted to welcome you to our committee. If you'll kick us off with a little bit about yourself, why you've enjoyed your service so far, and why you'd like to continue serving on this newly reformed version of the board, and we'll open it up to some commissioner questions.
Sure, thanks. Well, you know, I've been doing this, like I said, since the Engler administration, literally. You know, my background is, you know, after a little stint in the Army and my political science degree, I went to grad school, U of M Flint, master's degree in public administration. While doing that, I served as an intern for the Village of Holly's assistant village manager and did an analysis of their curbside program, which is the recycling program, which is one of the first in the state. My master's thesis was on county solid waste planning, so I've been at this for a minute. I wrote some of the amendments to the city of Novi's industrial zoning back in the early 90s as a city planner there to accommodate a materials recovery facility, which ultimately got located in Southfield at the northeast corner of 8 Mile and Evergreen. Since 1994, I've been the general manager, as Commissioner Taylor knows, serving in the city of Southfield as the general manager of the Resource Recovery and Recycling Authority of Southwest Oakland County. We represent 9 communities in Oakland County, from Southfield up to South Lyon, and in between that swath of communities along the I-696 corridor. My focus has always been on community. That's my why. Community and the residents that live in those communities. You're unlikely to, if I may, you're unlikely to find anybody in the state that has any more experience in dealing with these types of things. I've served as the general manager since 1994. I've served on the Governor's Recycling Council under Governor Snyder. I've been the chair of the Michigan Recycling Coalition's policy committee. I've served as a committee member of the executive committee of the National Public Partnerships Association. I've served on the Oakland County Solid Waste Planning Committee for since the 90s. I've served on the Genesee County Solid Waste Planning Committee through a couple of plan updates there. I mean, I could go on and on. I've been working with local communities, boots on the ground, trying to make sure that we had comprehensive, innovative recycling programs, solid waste management programs, household hazardous waste programs. Our household hazardous waste program, where we have 7 collection events each year, was the first in the state to be a multi-community, multi-event program. And it's really what the No-Haz program was based on. If you're familiar with No-Haz, you know, the folks that built that back way back when modeled it after our program. So again, I could carry on for the rest of the afternoon, but you don't have time for that. I want to be on this committee because it's one of the ways in which I can represent the folks that live in the communities I represent, and how I can have a beneficial impact on the rest of the county and the state.
Thank you. Questions? Commissioner Smith?
Nice to meet you, face to face. Finally, I've seen your name on a lot of stuff over the years, but a lot of experience. And as an engineer myself, I think people here have heard me say, especially in No-Haz and some of the other stuff, I think everything could be recycled. And it drives my wife nuts because I put everything in a recycle bin, even though I know they can't recycle it. But I'm one of those guys because as an engineer, I know they can. Just they choose not to. So in your perspective, what would be one of the first things that this new committee should focus on?
Well, certainly, you know, compliance with the new Part 115 amendments, which is why this committee is being formed as a result of the changes in the state regulatory framework. So obviously compliance with state law to make sure that the county has a plan in place that allows the communities and their residents to flourish with robust materials management plans that are all compliant with the law. And not for nothing, but I played a role in help write that Part 115 those 115 amendments, as well as the Renew Michigan program, out of which funding will come to the county to facilitate this process. But at the end of the day, what I think the county should be looking for is to replicate the success that exists in many of the existing Oakland County communities, whether it's the Rossock communities or the Sacra communities. You're probably familiar with Sacra, the 12 communities on the east side, you know, up Oak Park up to Troy. Those 21 communities have a track record of solid, innovative, cost-effective solid waste management programs, materials management programs, and that's the jargon we use now. And I think those communities serve as a template for the remainder of Oakland County. And make no mistake, many communities in Oakland County outside of those 21 communities do have good programs. Solid contractors, successful recycling programs, community-based household hazardous waste collections. The next step is to get into more organics management. I know you just talked to Danielle. Danielle and I are working on a project in Southfield to look at food waste reduction across all sectors. There's an article that Eagle actually released today. Daniel turns out wrote it about that food waste project in Southfield. It also mentions the new food waste project that's taking place in Wixom starting tomorrow, where I was able to convince the city and their hauling contractor GFL and the compost facility Spurt to allow residents to put their kitchen scraps in with their yard waste, so we can get those things out of the landfill, not generate the methane, get them back into a value-added pathway, and turn that stuff into something that's good for the soil, good for soil health, stormwater runoff, all the things that we know composting is good for. So those are the types of things that I think are existing and emerging, and I think what this committee can do and what the county can do is nurture that in the rest of the county where those programs don't exist. So support existing programs like you'll find in Southfield or in Troy or Royal Oak, and then help migrate those to other communities in Oakland County.
Thank you. Commissioner Gershenson.
Well, such an interesting career you've had in such an interesting field.
Thank you.
I personally have a big interest in recycling and reusing. In California, they have banned plastic bags in grocery stores. And so the grocery stores have gone around that ban, and they now produce a different kind of plastic bag, which actually has increased the number of plastic bags they have, because they make a stronger bag so it doesn't fit under the criteria of the banned plastic bags. Do you see in Michigan any future of banning those plastic bags?
Well, you know, I'd start by saying that you always have to be aware of the law of unintended consequences. And we see that a lot when we have folks that are well-intended but will put policies and legislation together. And part of my role historically has been, and even Danielle, who you talked to earlier, would tell you that, because I've eaten up a lot of airtime in committee meetings that she's been in, where folks have good ideas and I have to explain to them why that's not actually a good idea. In Michigan, up until recently, you couldn't ban bags if you wanted to, because there was we jokingly refer to it as the plastic bag ban, where the state legislature decided that communities, counties, and cities couldn't pass those types of bans. You know, whether or not we ever see meaningful bans of those types of things in Michigan is an open question. I'm always cautious of bans, and I do think they have the place. The yard waste ban, for example, on landfilling yard waste has been a good move for Michigan, but it takes time. You have to have the infrastructure in place. You have to have you have to be prepared to deal with the consequences and sort of imagine those unintended consequences like what the grocery stores in California have done. But there certainly could be a place for bans of certain materials. But before I would start thinking about bans, particularly landfill bans, I'd think more about how can we facilitate local government programming to accommodate better materials management for all things that get produced in our general consumer economy. And one of my soapbox issues has been, communities and the fact that because of Prop A and Headley, we've got communities in the state that still haven't recovered from the 08-09 drop in property values. City of Southfield, good example, their 2022 taxable value is 21% below the 2007 taxable value. SEMCOG wide, I think the number is like 20 or 22% in terms of taxable value. So we have a lot of communities that are resource constrained, and whenever folks consider something like a ban, they need to consider not just the unintended consequences, but the costs that go along with that potentially, and think through how that might impact organizations such as municipalities that have, in many cases, scarce resources. And that's always the types of issues that I like to think about when we talk about things like legislation.
And I understand, so I will just close with saying those of us that do recycle, be reminded that you cannot put plastic bags in your recycling bin, and that there are places you can put them, like many of the Kroger stores have a specific bin for plastic, as well as Kohl's, the department store Kohl's. So I mean, if you look for it, it's a pain in the neck. You have to make an extra trip. You have to keep a bag of plastic bags in your car, but otherwise you're polluting the whole load if you put them into your bin.
Commissioner Hall.
Yes, thank you. That inspired a thought in my head, given your vast experience. What are the best practices for reducing single-use plastic? Because I know that in the waste stream, there really is very limited opportunities to recycle.
Yeah. So for most single-use packaging, if it's like rigid containers, 1s, 2s, 4s through 7s, with the exception of the flexible packaging like the shrink wrap and the plastic bags, there are ready markets for that material, and you will see headlines that say, oh, only X%, like Greenpeace did a thing a year or two ago, only 9% of plastics get recycled. Completely misleading, because what I can assure you, if you live in a community like Farmington Hills or Southfield or Troy, 98% of what goes in those recycling carts, well, let me back up. 85 to 90%, 95% of what goes in those recycling carts is getting recycled. Now, there are people that are putting things in their carts that don't belong in there, and that's gonna have to be trash. But if you put something that's actually recyclable in your cart in Oakland County, it's going to materials recovery facility like ours in Southfield, like Soccer's in Troy, like the GFL site at the old Fierro plant in Pontiac, and it is getting recycled. But many of those things are single-use containers that end up on this, recycling treadmill. They'll go to a plastics processor like Clean Tech in Dundee, get made into pellets so that their partnered Plastipack can make it into new food packaging, and then it'll end up on the Kroger or Meijer shelf and then back in your home and back in your recycling cart and make that trip again. And so the degree to which we can get manufacturers to manufacture things that have longer life, whether it's because they're reusable or they are of a chemical constituency that they can continue to get recycled over and over again, the better off we'll be. And really the best tool for that is extended producer responsibility laws. That's where you bring the manufacturers, the retailers, and the brands, and their consumers into the equation, and so that manufacturers will design for recycling. And when you make brands and their packaging manufacturers responsible for some share of the cost of completing that circular economy loop, they begin to integrate design into, or recycling into their design process. There's gonna be legislation probably later this year in the state of Michigan that will replicate what we've seen elsewhere in the United States along those lines. You know, whether or not it'll get traction, who knows? It's probably a lame duck consideration this year because of the election. But that's a real opportunity to address some of these issues with single-use plastics, because if the manufacturers who make those things have some responsibility for the end-of-life disposition, they think a little bit harder about moving recyclability and sustainability up on their list of criteria in the design process.
Thank you.
Interesting. Anything else? No? I could listen to you talk forever. This is like.
Well, be careful what you ask for.
I really appreciate it. I'll just say, timeline wise, I mean, not that it matters so much for our, we're not, I don't like the word incumbent, but incumbents. But this process is long. You're our second interview of many, many interviews. We anticipate being done on our end May, at mid-May-ish, early June, so expect to hear back from us then. But yeah, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you, thanks for your time.
Nice to meet you.
Nice seeing you again.
That closes our regular agenda. Anyone from the public wishing to address us on anything at all? No. Other business announcements? I wanna say, I am the only level of government that represents the entirety of Oakland University's campus, and boy, I had a heck of a month. That was a great run that they had in March Madness.
Oh my God, yeah.
I was so excited for them. I saw Aura on the screen being more excited than I've ever seen Aura, and that was really exciting. So that's my one announcement is
I
I'm very
got a
proud
lot
of
of
Oakland.
grief for not picking them. I mean, I thought, how are they gonna beat Kentucky? It's not gonna happen.
Oh, I picked that. I mean,
you
it was
did? You
blind
picked them?
allegiance,
Yours
but
was the only one that didn't get
I
ruined
know,
off
I
of
know.
that, yeah.
And they
I
came
was
so close
excited.
to the next one too. But
Yeah,
Very
they did.
exciting.
So close, that was,
Yeah.
yeah.
heartbreaking. Any other real announcement? I mean, that was a real announcement. But no, all right, I will conclude this meeting. It's 10:07. Thanks, everyone.